So, welcome to the library. I'm your favorite librarian. Today we're going to talk about history and who writes history and what becomes of it after the present time. We're going to talk about some twists and turns and some very interesting stories. The main work we're talking about here is Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. This is a very important work. Let's talk a bit about the book first, and then we'll talk about Howard Zinn himself. The book tells the stories of regular people, which is different from most histories that talk mostly about histories and dates and important events. This tells of the struggles of regular Americans in a lively prose style that helps the reader get into all the stories. It starts with Columbus arriving in America and ends with the hotly contested 2000 presidential election. Yes, some chapters were added to this edition. It was first published in 1980 and received a nomination for the American Book Award in 1981. It was highly acclaimed, sold out of all copies on its first hardcover run, and as of this edition has sold over 2 million copies worldwide. That's a huge amount for any book, never mind a history textbook. Yes, this is an in-demand textbook in high school and university classes because it tells the truth. Now a bit more about Howard Zinn. He is a scholar, an activist, a historian, was a professor at Boston University, and was heavily involved in the struggle for human rights, civil rights, in the 1950s and 60s. Some important passages in the book tell of his involvement with the Congress of Racial Equality, which organized freedom rides where white people and white students would join black people on bus rides through the South, trying to break the cycle of inequality and segregation. Now, these people were very militant, but not violent. They wanted what was right. And for that, they were taken off the buses, beaten, put in prison, all to call attention to the human rights struggle. Many other stories can be found in this book, many twists and turns of American history. I can't tell you enough that this is a really great book. I'm going to follow the lines of history into something a little bit different. This is a biography by Andrew Patton of I.F. Stone, or Izzy Stone, a famous or infamous newspaper man who stood up to the cronyism of McCarthyism, trying to call the people out for being communist, painting everybody with the same brush. I.F. Stone was a political thinker, scholar, and independent maverick newspaper man. This is a really good book to find out more about the history of those times through the eyes of a person that lived it, in a way. And I'm just going to read the inscription in the book to tell you exactly what you need to know about I.F. Stone and why this book is important. This is a quote from I.F. Stone's final I.F. Stone's Weekly, which was his newspaper. To give a little comfort to the oppressed, to write the truth exactly as I saw it, to make no compromises other than those of quality imposed by my own inadequacies, to be free to follow no master other than my own compulsions, to live up to my idealized image of what a true newspaper man should be, and still be able to make a living for my family. What more could a man ask? Philosophically, I believe that a man's life reduces itself ultimately to a faith. The fundamental is beyond proof, and that faith is a matter of aesthetics, a sense of beauty and harmony. I think every man is his own Pygmalion and spends his life fashioning himself. And in fashioning himself, for good or ill, he fashions the human race and its future. Well, the human race and its future can be described by history, and journalism, and telling the stories and telling the truth about your times for future generations is an important facet of learning about history. Now on to another book. It's also to do with journalism, but also now because we're in 2024, it is of historical context. It's called Generations of Swine, and it's by Hunter S. Thompson, also an infamous journalist. This is a collection of his newspaper pieces for the San Francisco Examiner in the 1980s. It talks a lot about politics, the degradation of American society, the death of the American dream. Now, Hunter Thompson was famous for creating his own journalism style in the 1960s and following it through the rest of his career, called gonzo journalism. And that is where he would insert himself as a fictional alter ego of himself into his stories, thereby creating a sense of a person who is involved with the history of the times, and also a more subjective rather than objective journalistic style. Something to look at if you want to find out more about the history of the 1980s, definitely through a different lens than the corporate media. Now, finally, I have for you a work of fiction. It's called How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin, who is one of today's preeminent writers of speculative or science fiction, creating worlds that know no bounds. But in these pages, works of short fiction or short stories, Jemisin envisions many different futures on alternate planes of reality, as well as on our own Earth, about how the future will look for Black people, because often Black people are seen as having no future in the United States. This is an important new way to look at what history could look like, and I urge you to check it out as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk and learned a bit about some books that you might like to read in a historical context. Bye for now.